So today the topic of my talk is called Demystifying AI, but I'd like to think about this from the perspective of online education, which is what my team at Reaktor does. So Reaktor is a global technology company. We have about almost 600 employees in offices around the world, and we typically consult our clients on technical builds and how to digitize their workplace. So when we actually had the opportunity to make this online course, which was the first one for us, we collaborated with the University of Helsinki's computer science department. It made sense for us as a company because we do have quite a large data science team and AI capacity here. And we wanted to figure out a way to see how we could articulate this kind of a subject to the general public, because even at our company, we struggle a lot with trying to understand different ways that we can create business value with our clients if people themselves and the clients and people around us in the world are still trying to understand and make sense of the subject of AI. So for us, we really approach this as not being educators, but being people that were, aware of how people interact with technology and with programs. And we tried to create something that would be really user-friendly and intuitive and a bit of a departure from typical online education. So just to start off, to think about Moocs are massive open online courses. So this is for any subject you can find anywhere in the world, and we're seeing a pretty exponential growth in online education right now for a variety of reasons. But from our perspective, a lot of those courses that you find online are sort of a copy paste of a university lecture theater environment. They tend to be things that are sort of in front of a whiteboard or a PowerPoint, very monotone, and they often take quite a while because they're designed as semester-long courses. But if you think about this really large group of people out there that is outside of education, who has full-time jobs, maybe they have families, they need to still catch up on these things without being able to take that huge time off their lives. And we need to start thinking about how we can actually reach them with these sort of otherwise intimidating and complicated subjects and make them feel like they can catch up. So that's what we started to think about calling Moocs for modern life in retrospect after we made elements of AI. What we mean by that is, again, people are really being told a lot right now that they need to reskill to stay relevant in the future of work. They're hearing about things like the jobless future, or are needing to have these kind of new skills and feeling like, where's the time and the space to do that? And where do I start if I don't even really know where to begin? And AI, as you can imagine, is really one of those subjects where people feel very often like the train has sort of left the station and they really don't know how or whether it's worth their while to catch up. And the other thing to think about is how people actually are learning outside of academia, right? So these statistics are already 2 years old. And if you can imagine what's happened with COVID, that's actually accelerated these kinds of trends around the world. So people are learning on their way to work. There's a big group of people that are learning on their evenings and weekends. And a lot of people want these things in easily digestible, bite-sized chunks. So what this means is that people are learning in their free time, which is why we think that if you're trying to make an online course for this group of people, meaning people that are outside of the academic setting, you're no longer competing with education, higher education. You're competing with what they do in their free time, things like social media and other kinds of activities. So this is what we start to think about when we wanted to design elements of AI. Before we even broach the subject of AI itself, how do we start to think about, creating something that looks like the other apps that people are already using on their phone, something that's really intuitive, easy to navigate, friendly graphics, taking an intimidating subject and making it really approachable, but also the kind of UI that feels super intuitive and like anybody can kind of jump in and start right away. The other thing to think about with AI is the concept of the topic itself. So I've already mentioned a little bit about how people tend to feel about it, particularly if they're left outside of the subject. And the one thing that we did agree with right away with Professor Teemu Roos at the University of Helsinki and ourselves was that we wanted to create a course for people who are typically left outside of technology discussions. These are the kinds of things that these people are seeing all the time. They're having, they don't really know, what is information and what is misinformation. There's so much oversaturation of information out there. And they're hearing a lot of things, like robots are going to take their jobs, or, algorithms on social media are compromising elections. They're hearing all of these things. And so they can really start to get a sense of kind of fear around a subject that is already in itself very intimidating and complicated to understand. So what we did is we actually had focus groups of people and started from a design thinking process. We got together groups of people from the demographics that we wanted to target, women, retirees, students, people from all different types of areas who are typically left outside of technology. We asked them what they felt about the subject of AI and why they actually would want to learn about it. So they said things like, you know, it's confusing, it's intimidating. One of the things that really stuck with us was a woman that said that I just don't feel like it's for people like me. And then we tried to think about why somebody would want to learn this. You know, do they want to sound smart at their next job interview? Does someone have a job that they think that they would want? Do they want to just have a better grip on what's going on around them? And then kind of compile all these things together and design something fit for purpose, rather than leading with the education and trying to, you know, sort of fit it that way around. So this went all the way into the kind of messaging that we had as well. So when we actually created the course, we didn't just build it, we also had this kind of messaging around it. So we said that if AI is like electricity, then it shouldn't be left in the hands of a few elite coders. What we ended up with was a machine learning, you know, course that looks and feels like this, that is this kind of approachable, and that really people can feel like they can start to, you know, do these subjects on their own time and in their own space in a way that they feel included. The course itself is in 6 parts. So at the very beginning, it's, you know, what is AI and what isn't AI, busting down those myths. Then the next 4 chapters are different types of applied AI and increasing complexity. So we start out with talking about, you know, just what is an algorithm, starting to do like kind of, you know, logic trees and search algorithms, all the way down into, you know, deep learning and machine vision and those kinds of things, with the final chapter being on implications, meaning that now you kind of have the fundamentals, now that you sort of understand what the different types of AI is and where it's being applied in your life at these real sort of touch points we give people. So for instance, if we're explaining search algorithms, we'll bring up, you know, maps on your phone. Or if we're talking about algorithmic bias, we might talk about your social news feed. We automatically try to bring it back to things that people can relate to in their everyday lives. And in the implications chapter, we start to ask them to think critically about what this means for themselves in their daily lives and for the future of work and society in general. And that, again, carries through with the kind of mission behind what we're doing, that we wanted to create a worldwide movement that helps people feel empowered and not threatened by AI. And that's informed, again, directly from the feedback from the students that we had prior to actually beginning this project. And for us, the concrete goal that we had when we actually launched the course was to educate 1% of Finland's population on the basics of AI within the first 2 years, which we've done. And I'll go into that in a second. So how do we actually, you know, now we have talked about how we, you know, went about trying to build the course and the kind of creation process that went into it. But now I think that something that is really equally important to this was what we did when we launched the course and the kind of messaging and things that went around it, because that is what really got the kind of traction that we have for this, that just is not typical with other types of online education products. First of all, one thing that we did do that is pretty common is we wanted to make sure that this was actual university credit. So the University of Helsinki gives 2 ECTS credits for people that finish this in Finland. And in our partnerships around the world, which I'll go into in a minute, we partner with local universities so that in those population areas, they can also, students can also actually get real university ECTS credits out of this as a key motivational factor. So you can see here from my slide that even the president of Finland has his Elements of AI certificate. Although I'm not, I still think that the superlative for us was this Christmas when Santa Claus in Rovaniemi had an official Elements of AI certificate, which you can find on Twitter, which was pretty much a high watermark for us. One of the things that we did when we launched the course is that we told the first cohorts who graduated that they could come to a graduation ceremony in Helsinki. And we gave them a deadline, and that's all that we said. We had over 800 people actually show up, driving and flying and taking trains from all over Finland. So retirees, students, working people, all different age groups. And we ended up having that ceremony hosted by the president of Finland. We had keynote speakers, including people like Risto Siilasmaa, who's the chairman of Nokia, talking about why this subject is important in the business sector. And we also launched what we called the AI Challenge, which is just where it was sort of a Twitter campaign where we told companies that if they pledged to educate 10% of their workforce on the basics of AI, that they could, you know, say that they were joining the AI Challenge. And there was that, and that was it. That was really sort of the way that this whole thing kicked off. We then started to with the success that we had in Finland, so we reached our goal of 1% and we were getting new students all the time. So we decided to try to expand this outside of Finland. The first use case was Sweden. And just to give you the kind of idea of the outside of box thinking that we had here, we actually had a minister, a government minister here in Finland, challenge his counterpart in Sweden on Twitter to educate Sweden's population in AI. And he accepted the challenge on Twitter, which of course was, discussed ahead of time. But you can see how the kind of press picked that up here in Computer Weekly and the way that we've been going forward. We've now actually announced in December that, so last year at the end of 2019, Finland held the office of the European presidency for the European Council. And as a parting gift, they decided to give elements of AI as a gift to the rest of the EU. And what that means is that the European Commission has actually translated elements of AI into every single official European language. And what was actually funded by Finland was to have my team and the University of Helsinki bring the course to every single European country. So what we do there is we actually form partnerships on the ground with governments, universities, and even private companies to help us get this course in front of real people. So it's not a translation exercise. It's about finding ways to adapt the messaging and the launch to get this in front of the people that actually should be learning about these subjects because it affects them in their real lives. Right now, we have over 510,000 students as of this week in almost every country in the world. But for us, the big number here is that to this day, over 40% of our course takers are women, which in the Nordics is actually almost 50%. But even at 40%, that's over double the average of every other computer science course online. So that is just a testament to us really strongly that when you do design something fit for purpose and aimed at a specific target audience, that you really can achieve these kinds of results. And to just build on that, our students themselves have ranked Elements of AI the #1 computer science course in the world online, ahead of Stanford, Harvard, and MIT. And that's based on Class Central, which is sort of Trustpilot for every online course that's published in the world. So thousands of people voted for this. And we also, just at the end of last year, we were named the Global Grand Prize winner from the MIT and Inclusive Innovation Challenge, which is something that we're creating a new kind of business that is aimed to help people that are traditionally marginalized or left out of the kind of fast-paced economy. We're trying to discover new ways to bring those people back in and to get them up and running. The kinds of just press and media quickly. The important thing to understand here is that we've been featured in over 500 global media outlets, but we've actually had no traditional paid advertising. So this is the importance of all the things that I discussed before about kind of creating these grassroots movements in a way that was completely organic for us. So all of this has happened with continuing to this day, no paid advertising. The kind of messaging that was coming out in the original press was really picking up on this idea of the 1%. So we want to create, 1% of people in society having these basics. And that kind of challenge was picked up by the media. And that's what we used actually to try to bring it forward around the world. The CEO of Google met with the Prime Minister of Finland and said that, he wishes that this was a template that other countries could use. Emmanuel Macron at a national AI conference said that Finland has shown the path and he wants the EU Commission to take this kind of initiative on for the whole population. And this kind of thing about the grassroots movement that I discussed before, these were the kinds of things that actually came out of it. So we had one of our students here in Finland, a woman who is actually leading a program called the Smart Prison Project. So she works for the Finnish prison system. And she's in charge of a project that's helping prisoners to re-educate on future skills so that when they actually leave prison, they can reintegrate into the workforce that actually has obviously adapted since during their time of being incarcerated. And, she approached us to help us build this project for her, and it ended up getting picked up by Wired magazine, and that ended up getting picked up by a documentary from Business Insider. And all this kind of stuff just snowballed from there. So it really has been a kind of surreal experience for us. And these are just other things, like the OECD has said that Elements of AI is one of the reasons that Finland will succeed in the 21st century, not just because of the course itself, but because the way that they see it, it's sort of a grassroots experiment that's testing ideas to make society run better. And this was featured in the same article, talking about things like how Finland was the first to test out universal basic income. So these are the kind of ideas that we want to try to roll with going forward when we try to think about what it is that we've actually done and how we can continue going forward. So with that, I'll go in briefly into what's next for us here at Reaktor Education. So my team, Reaktor Education, is brand new. It was created because of the success of Elements of AI. So we've got a lot of work ahead of us and a lot of things that big shoes to fill to try to move this forward and use the kind of momentum that we have. First up next for us is a course called Building AI. This is a sequel course to Elements of AI, again built with the University of Helsinki and Professor Teemu Roos. This course is really, really cool for several reasons. First of all, I love the look and feel of it, but the really important things here is that this is another course that is going to fill a sort of missing step out there in online education for people that are wanting to learn how to start to practice AI. So it's going to be offered in 3 skills levels. So one for people that don't know how to code, who just want to understand the kind of pipeline process and use cases that go into AI. And then the second level is people that do know how to code a little bit and they can start to edit. And the third is people that know Python. So we actually have incremental ECTS credits for this course that go up based on the level that you take. And what it is it's going to help people start to learn how to build and code machine learning models. It's going to really lower the barrier to entry for that, though, because unlike other courses like this that are online, you're not going to ever have to leave the course environment. So the coding of the machine learning models, you don't have to pull up a coding environment. It's actually embedded inside the course. And when you click train, it actually is going to spin up models live and train them live, but they are pre-trained. So it's enough to do it in the browser, which means that you don't have to have students panicking about, if they've had to spin up, GPUs or rent GPUs placed in the cloud, if you have like big models going or anything like that, they're not going to have to try to navigate all that stuff while they're just first trying to start out. So it's something that really is that kind of fundamental missing step in between. And going forward, for us, what we're trying to do based on what we did with Elements of AI is start to think about not just the domain of AI, but how we can continue to do this with other fields as well that we feel are really pertinent and important in the world. So everything that we do is designed to empower all people to participate in our rapidly evolving society. The courses that we have now, we launched starting up at Slush last year. So it's a course on the basics of entrepreneurship. The idea is that you shouldn't, in the 21st century, it shouldn't be about how much money you have or who you know. You should just be able to learn this stuff. So we built that course together with Alto and Kiwas and Maki VC. So it really is a kind of multifaceted course where you can learn from real entrepreneurs. We've got another course actually launching tomorrow at a major health conference here in Helsinki. Called Rethinking Health. It's about value-based healthcare, so understanding systems on a macro level and how if you start to think about things a little bit differently, you can actually create a more holistic and healthy society. And other courses that we have coming soon along the same kind of vein. So we have a course on viruses and epidemics. Obviously, since what happened this year really threw a lot of people off, we felt that people were lacking the kind of context they needed to make sense of all the things that they were being bombarded with in the media. Very similar to the subject of AI, if you think about it. And then another course that we're having coming out later this year as well on regenerative farming, which is essentially sustainable farming methods and carbon neutral farming methods that are actually going to be given to real farmers here in Finland. So then just lastly, another thing that we have launching this December is a collaborative project with the European Union called the European Digital Academy. So we're building an online portal for them to gather all of the learning opportunities in Europe for European citizens on digital skills courses and other types of best practices for learning and educating yourself online. And with that, we're also building 3 new courses on digital skills for the digital revolution, emerging technologies, and cybersecurity. So we have a lot on, but we really are dedicated to trying to demystify these subjects on a societal level, and just trying to keep pace with the people that like what we're doing. So thank you very much, and I am happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
If we talk about the launch building AI course coming up, it's also paired with real life examples, right?
Yes. So we did try to find more sort of like business case use examples that people could have. So thinking about different ways of applying the AI in that course so that people can really kind of get a handle on how to start building these things. So the examples that we would use in the Elements of AI course, were more illustrative. So we tried to think about in Elements of AI, for example, we might discuss, how the AlphaGo AI started to beat a human being for the first time and what that meant and how it worked. But now actually we're using more sort of real life use cases so that when people actually do start building things, they can think about how to do them in their own environments.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I think somebody is there.
Yes.
There was a request for a link for Rethinking Health, but I think that was available only tomorrow.
Yes. So
launching tomorrow.
What I can do is, if you actually just Google Reaktor Education, we have our own sort of placeholder landing page right now, which is still on the main Reaktor website. And we are just now today re-editing that entire landing page to include all the things that I just discussed with you, because we have quite a load actually launching in quick succession here this autumn. And I think that that's where you would find the live link tomorrow, but unfortunately it's not launching until tomorrow.
Just a question. So many things going on. I guess your team is growing, or are you gonna handle all this with your current team?
Yes, we are growing, but it's still a pretty slow process for us right now. I think that we have about 11 people on the team now doing all of these projects. So the course content itself, we work with the experts who provide us sort of the meat of the content. But then we try to think about, we work with our copy editors and graphic designers to try to take it and sort of reinterpret it in the ways that we've discussed. So trying to make these kind of abstract subjects more approachable to people and really find out ways that we can just help break it down and make them more bite-sized. That's really the goal for us now as well.
No. Do you work with university student groups currently?
Not currently. We did when we were working with the entrepreneurship course starting up. So the kind of consortium there providing the content was the university, but also the people that are working at AVP, the Alto Ventures program. So those are student led as well. And then the kind of Kiwas Accelerator has a lot of recent grads and people out there as well. And then the Maki VC, they were providing us with the kind of like investment side angle of things. So we really tried to get all these different kinds of angles in that course. But that course starting up has a lot of anecdotes as well from different people in the Nordics who have been really successful with building companies.
Andy here wanted to tell that how much we love what they do. Yes, we
really,
absolutely do.
Yeah, we really, really appreciate it. We work extremely hard right now. We've got teams that are actually, we have to get all of the language versions of Elements of AI out by the end of December this year. And those are corresponding with launches. So a lot of that got delayed due to COVID, because we actually were going to have live launches in many places, so conferences in Paris and things like that. So we're thinking about doing the Euro tour a little bit later, unfortunately, but we are still getting all of those out, as well as building the rest of these. And the University of Helsinki's team is also working on the new Building AI course.
Let's hope that everything goes good.
Yeah. Yes. We're hoping so too. So I think everybody downstairs is really getting ready for the next course launch tomorrow. But yeah.
And to recap, how many languages there are in European Union, official ones?
I think 30.
30. Yeah, it must be.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
not 100% sure on that, but yeah. And I actually think today when we were really kind of rewriting the content for the landing page that was shared here, which is, should be actually ready and refreshed by tonight. So it's like, go ahead and check it maybe tonight or tomorrow, because right now it's still probably like the old version. But we actually realized that we think that we've created the first online course that's ever been published in every European language. And that in itself, I think, is a really huge superlative because, we do see a big effect in the numbers. And I think that especially when you're talking about a subject like this, having it be in someone's original language is a huge step change to being able to understand it, because it is very technical, which also makes the translations really difficult because, even translating into Swedish was, many, many, many phone calls. But yeah.
Okay, thanks for your time, Megan.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, bye.